6 by Mr. George Adams. Here's a portrait of him there. He had hired the most prominent people of the county to help build the mansion. One of them, which was George Blackburn, who is the local bricklayer, he actually, long story short, ended up setting the mansion on fire the night before the family was to move in.
Wow.
So the family lived in the house back on the field, and they actually watched it burnt. And back then they didn't have the fire departments like we have now, and the bucket brigade is what they used, and it was so hot that they just could not get enough onto it fast enough. Needless to say, the mansion had burned. George Blackburn, also the local drunk, had went and bragged about the fact that he had caught it on fire to make extra work for himself and others. Mr. Adams had him sent to the penitentiary, which he ended up later escaping, and he came back to Dresden, tried to rob a farmer, and the farmer took an axe to him. Ooh. So that was the end of his demise. Mr. Adams had the mansion rebuilt exactly the same way it was. The only difference was there was extra mortar between the floors and between the walls. That way, if anything would ever happen again, it would not spread as fast. Yeah. This here is the gentleman's parlor. This would have been used for the gentlemen after dinner on a lot of business meetings. The guys would come in here, talk politics, business, have their brandy, cigars, whatnots. The picture rail in this room is actually the original one. It's all the rooms, most of the major rooms had them, but this is still the original one that's been up. If you want to move across the hall here, we'll go to Mr. Adams' library. This is Mr. Adams, the library of the house. This would they used to store all his books and whatnot. He's a very prominent businessman. He did a lot of his business workings in here. If you see the insulators up here on the top of this wall, there's a couple here. There's one on this far over here by the chimney. That was used to run the wires for the telegraph. Oh. He had a telegraph in here to help him communicate with his many different businesses around town and whatnot. The children were homeschooled in this room until approximately 8th grade. They brought in a teacher from New York. She would come in and teach the children. And then from 9th grade to 12th, they would go to the Dresden High School and they would graduate from there. Go across the next hall, we will head into the ladies' parlor. This is the ladies' parlor. After dinner, the ladies and the children would come to this room and basically just hang out after dinner. The women would sew, talk, play the piano, the kids would do their thing. The boys would be allowed to stay in this room until the age of 16, and then they were allowed to go over and join the men in the gentleman's parlor. In here, we are in Mr. Adams' bedroom. This is the only bedroom on the first floor. Prospect Place was the first home in Muskegon County to have indoor plumbing also. It was about a month ago. We had a community flashlight tour, and this room was very hot. That might be something for you guys to check into. Okay. One of the guests we had was actually I don't want to say professional, experienced paranormal investigator, and she actually got pretty well freaked out. She was pretty startled, so I don't know what happened to her. Head over to this side first. This is the top floor of the servants' side. Okay. This room here that we are entering would be the servants' bedroom. Yes, this would be the servants' bedroom. And this room right off would have been the servants' closet. This is where they would have washed the clothes. The water would have been brought up through troughs in the floor. They would have done the hand washing in here, and then as they were done, the clothes and whatnot would be handed out these great big windows out to the balcony where they would air dry. Should it be on clothes racks or a clothesline. We have a volunteer here who's been with us many years. She recently came back, and she said that there's a tall gentleman, the name of Sam, who likes to hang out up here at the servants' quarters. So that might be someone you might try to contact tonight. Okay. All I know is that he's a very tall man, and he's kind of slender. And when we had the flashlight tours here a few weeks ago, someone said that they saw a very tall shadow with a couple shorter shadows. So I'm guessing that was Sam. This is the servants' balcony. And like I said, this is where they would have dried the clothes and whatnot. Also, I'm sure this is where the servants would like to come, get some fresh air. This here would have been used to store the laundry racks and whatnot. This is also used as the sick room. At that time, they did not have the medical care that we have these days, let alone close hospitals. So anytime anybody got sick, they would be isolated from the family. Should it be a servant or should it be the family? That just way nobody else was getting contagious. So as you probably assume, a lot of people have passed away here. Constance is the adopted daughter of Anna.
Okay.
And she did pass away here, but she passed away of consumption, tuberculosis.
Oh, okay.
The little girl who fell off the balcony, to our understanding, was a servant's daughter. She was sick, she had a fever. She would have been in here, just for the fact of being isolated. At that time, the railing would have been a lot shorter too, so it makes more sense to us that she
it
would
was
have
this
fell off
one.
this balcony.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, at that time, as you did read, it was winter time and they could not give her a proper burial. So she was held downstairs in the basement until spring when the ground was soft enough to dig up. And her mother would go down every day and see her and spend as much time as she could. This room was used as Mary's room, of course. She lived here until Mr. Adams passed away, and then she moved to Zanesville. His oldest daughter, she moved in here, and she ended up marrying William Cox. Both of them spent a lot of money on here, just kind of updating, doing different things. Mr. Cox ended up kind of just disappearing from the family. He took off, and he was basically never seen of or heard of again. Miss Anna, this is her on the wall here. She ended up passing away here. It was a winter time. She went out for a stroll, maybe to see some family or friends. On her way back, she ended up falling and breaking her hip. And then while she was healing from breaking her hip, she ended up catching pneumonia. And pneumonia is what actually got her. There's a lot of activity up here on the second floor. A lot of like when you're on the first floor, you hear footsteps. Some people say they hear a woman screaming. I have not heard that yet, but it's definitely a screech that you will hear and know when you hear it. Here we enter the daughter's bedroom. This bedroom was shared by Adam's 5 daughters. As I said before, there's a lot of child activity up here. There's some in here, some out in the hallway. And here is the boys' bedroom. I don't hear a lot about this room, mostly about the girls' room and the hallway having the activity. Across the hallway, we have the family chapel and upstairs parlor. Mr. Adams was a very religious man. He actually donated the land that the Zion Church in Dresden is on. He basically helped pay for the upbringing of it. When he was unable to make it to church due to weather or whatever in the winter, he would come in here and he would provide the church services for his family and his servants. This room, I believe, was Constance's room at one time. Over here on the wall, we do have a picture of her. She was the adoptive daughter of Anna and William, and she ended up passing away of consumption. And then if you're ready, we will head up to the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
Here we are entering the 2,200 square horseshoe-shaped ballroom.
Wow.
This was used for many balls, banquets, get-togethers, just many different, I can only imagine. They would serve food from this window. That way the service would be in there, hand the food out, and then the party discontinued. When they would have balls and banquets, they would put the orchestra against this wall, that way the sound would echo on both sides. This is my favorite part of the house. I love the view from up here, and just love
Oh, look at this.
Wow.
it is awesome.
Wow. I like it.
Yes. This was the watchtower, or the cupola.
Yeah.
They would watch the fields from here for any fire or anything that might be bad, the bounty hunters. So if there's anything going on, they would run down and the next person let the next person know until it got down to Mr. Adams or whoever, and they could go out and take care of it. And then at night, when it was time for the train to come through, there were shutters on all these windows. They would shut off these 2 here and light a lantern. If the lantern was lit, of course it would just shine out in the field this way, then the refugees knew that it was safe to approach the house. If the lantern wasn't lit, then they knew there was some kind of trouble and they needed to go to the next safe house.
Did they like sneak them in here? You know, the refugees or something like
Yeah,
that?
honey, back here, you can actually kind of see it. Back there is the train tracks.
Okay.
And at that time there was a small canal, and they saw it. They would cross over the canal, and they would come up the field, and then they would just enter through the basement on the back side.
Okay. Look at that door. Wow.
Fancy that, huh?
So this first room that we've just entered was been called the larder. Basically kind of like a cellar. This is where they would have held all their jarred good and extra food down here. This here is our refrigeration.
Oh yeah.
Most people, as you hear, most underground railroads had a tunnel. Prospect Place did not. This is the only tunnel we have, but this was for our refrigeration. What they would do is they would bring in the great big ice blocks at that time, and they would come in this window. And then they would go down into this little chute, and all it is a hole, and then the air would blow through here, and there was like a big round wooden lid
Yeah.
that would go on this. And to our understanding, this side would have been more like the freezer side,
Yeah.
and that side over there would have been more like a refrigeration for your vegetables, possibly what they would cook for dinner that night. Our refugees actually come in that door. And what they would do is they would come in and they would pound on the floor and let Mr. Adams know that they were here. That way he knew. And then they would go on back to the room. You notice that Mr. Adams' room is the only one on the first floor. That was to protect his family. That way the wife and the children were always upstairs. And if anything was ever heard or anything in the basement, they never knew. That way, if they were ever questioned, when they said they don't know what they're talking about, they truly didn't know. It was all for their safety. The library and the gentleman's parlor are directly above the refugee rooms for that purpose, because those rooms were mostly used by Mr. Adams and or his business associates who were also doing the same thing that he was doing. So it was no secret to them, but that way the family never knew and they were safe, which I always think is awesome. But you can walk into all these rooms. I've got them all so you can walk around. Is this room here, and that room across the hall would have been the refugee rooms. Mr. Adams put more like some hay bales, straw bales in here, and he had plenty of blankets. He always left them with some food and water and a little bit of medical supplies, because you know, when people come through at that time, they weren't always in the best of shape or the best of health.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, some made it here and some never left, and others were able to come here, get some rest, and move on to bigger things. Both of these rooms at that time had these windows. These windows were hinged to go out so they could escape if needed, and they also had shutters on them. That way, if something come across,
Yeah.
they could close them and then just kind of bunker down and hope for the best.
Yeah.
In 1912, there was a train accident near here, and of course, there was a lot of tragedy. Mrs. Adams at the time opened up the basement as basically a field house. That way people could come down here, get some medical treatment, and unfortunately the ones who did not make it, she let them stay here until their families could come and get them and take them home for proper burials. So I welcome you to the barn. You guys are welcome to go in either side as you wish. You've heard the story of the bounty hunter?
Mm-hmm.
He was giving Mr. Adams some attitude about nothing that day. And my understanding is the stable hands got very upset. The stable hands were mad because the bounty hunter disrespected their boss. The stable men on their own went and got the bounty hunter, brought him back here, and gave him a mock trial, which they found him to be guilty. And they ended up hanging him from the straw hole there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of accounts that the bounty hunter does not like women. We've had some of our very own members here. They've sat back here on that bench. I believe the story was she was out here with her daughter. She sat down on the bench, kind of going through some of her pictures on her phone, and all of a sudden she kind of felt something on her back. You know, you have that feeling.
Yeah.
Well, she asked her daughter, you look, make sure there's no bug or whatever on me, and she actually had scratch marks. And then I also heard that there's a stable hand out here who kind of wanders around. I don't know much about him. I just heard about that.
We are now going to the basement.
Is that you? Who did that?
Whoa. Who's you? Did you follow us in? Hey, come on in.
As we're shutting the door, it was like,
Oh, I just did it again.
that was pretty cool.
It was.
He was right as the door was closing. He was like,
Let me in.
don't leave me behind.
Anyone down here?
kind of speak to us through this white noise.
Why did you come here?
Do you smell it?
There's someone standing by me.
It does smell like perfume. That was a different smell.
Was somebody standing by me?
What'd you smell?
It was flowery kind
Hmm.
Okay, see, I felt it on my back again. Something tugged on my clothes.
You said it's okay to touch us if you're nice about it.
Yeah, maybe you just want to tell us something.
Oh, hello.
Oh, that's what that was. It chirped a few minutes ago. I thought it was a cricket.
No, your K2 was going off.
Oh, hi.
Who's there?
Hi.
Well, feel free to join us.
Again, Valdana just ignores you.
Hello.
What are we doing now?
We're gonna go upstairs. Okay. Oh, hey there. How's it going?
You are following Teresa.
All right.
Where are we going?
Let's go upstairs then. We got some music to play for some dancing. Anybody up for some dancing?
Pushing me. Quit pushing me.
Oh my God.
This time I had it right in front of me.
Told you, don't push me like that. Ran past my legs. Seriously, I can feel it. You're running past my legs. Did you do that to me?
What's going on, Jill?
Are you on the stairs? Okay.
It's gotta be something.
Cause then you can't replicate it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it like stops and then,
Right, stops by us.
like when you stop.
Mhm.
But then you're getting it right in that spot again.
Okay, let's go.
Can you stop?
Now stop it right in front of that rail again. Huh. Weird. Because you can't replicate it now.
No, I can't.
And I just walked through, I got my K2, it didn't do a damn thing.
I don't know. Come on up.
So they wanted to come up for some dancing, I guess.
Maybe. You said come up and dance.
Yeah.
Have a little dancey, huh? Oh, no, I can't see.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Hi.
You like her, huh? Just gonna follow us around? Because that's kind of fun.
Sure is.
Do you like Teresa?
Do you want to dance with me?
Oh my God, it is so black up here.
Oh, well, you like the K2 there, huh? That's called the K2. You light it all the way up to the red. Would you like Jill to play some music for you?
Some dancing music? And get the ballroom started? I'll stand here since she said this is where the orchestra used to be. Here's another one.
Yes.
These are a little faster.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
You like it, huh?
Yeah! You see
We
it?
all
Grab
can
it.
dance.
I think it likes the music, Jill.
I think
I'm
so.
not it. I need to know if you're a boy. You're a boy. Are you a boy?
I call him a man.
Man?
Yeah.
Man? Okay.
You want to do another song? I got a few more. They like that one. Can you make the sound of your footsteps?
Yeah. Show us how your feet are supposed to step on waltz and they lit it up, Jill.
I have a waltz.
Yep. The man likes the waltz, Jill. Yep. Sure does. Thanks for dancing with me.
You want to talk to us on this?
Cool.
You can speak to us through the white noise. You guys dance up here a lot?
My kitchen's going on. This is? No, it's just going on.
Was there someone dancing with Teresa? What kind of things went on up in this room? Well, thanks for sharing. In this Constance room. It's not helping me out because I was looking at that. It's really
Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
You making noise in there?
I heard that.
What'd you guys hear?
You playing? Sounded like they moved something.
Oh, I don't hear nothing. Did they when you push the car or something?
Sounded like it.
Well, you did tell them to romp around in there.
I did. Did you guys hear like a sound out there again?
Huh?
I thought I just heard a sound out there. Like a
Yeah, there's been sounds going on out there for a sec.
Hello? Oh, I'm going to.
Who's gonna come in here and hang out with us, Jill? Oh, okay. You like, who's gonna come in here, I said? Play an instrument. Look. Oh, that'll work. What's it doing that?
Is it blood sounding? I just want to take this in the sick room a little bit and then go back downstairs. I just kind of wanted to do a little walkthrough with this. Hello again. Anybody? Anybody?
All the rooms I've been in this one, there's any rooms that are
Really? Is that why you kept the door open?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you sick with? Well, if y'all said anything, thanks for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Conservatory just give you the willies.
Yeah.
I got a weird feeling up that whole area, but mostly in that room. I don't like it in that room.
What? All right, let's keep going. I don't know.
I zoomed it in. It's that first area right there on the other side. That's pretty big.
All right, what do you guys think of Prospect so far?
It's awesome.
It's a very cool place.
Got lots of rooms, and K2 keeps going up. She keeps walking around with it. Keeps following her all over the place.
It's dancing away upstairs when you were playing, when Jill's playing the music. That thing was going crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, like that.
It was going cuckoo birds.
Cuckoo birds.
All right, well, we're
Place.
gonna head off to the barn now where the guy don't like women, so let's see what we get.
All right, here we go. Let's go.
Anybody out in the barn? If anyone's in this barn, please make a noise.
that? Oh.
You turn it on.
What'd you come to give Mr. Adams grief for?
Ooh, that's showing off. See that?
Who's here?
Yeah, this thing was going off a little bit.
Yeah, I seen that.
Is there a ranch hand here?
You do something just jumped on me? Or something just touched my shoulder?
Really?
My backside.
All right, well, have a good night. Take care of the ponies.